Welcome behind the scenes of this TI photo shoot. Now there are a few things that you need for one of our photo shoots. The first thing is great weather. That's expensive, we don't always have the budget. This time we thought it was worth it. You'll see why in a moment. You then need a good location with great scenery. We're in South Wales and it's all very pretty out there, isn't it? You also need brilliant roads. Down there are some lovely roads wiggling all the way up and down the hillside. They're fun. You need a top photographer, represented here by this tripod with a camera on top, because the actual photographer is holding this camera. Finally, you need a couple of good cars. We've tested some very special cars at the Intercooler, but these two McLarens are right up there with the best of them. Believe it or not, the P1 Hypercar is now a decade old. It rewrote the fast car rulebook when it arrived in 2012, but a decade is a very long time in the car world. Does it still feel like the technological tour de force it did when it was new? And more to the point, how does it stack up against the 765 LT, McLaren's latest track-focused supercar? The LT has 755 brake horsepower compared to the P1's 903 and no hybrid drive, but it's lighter by 151 kilograms. Today we want to find out if a brand new supercar can live with a decade-old hypercar. On some beautiful roads in South Wales, that's exactly what we're going to do. McLaren 765 LT. Ooh, I've got history with this car. First time I drove one was at Silverstone on the international media launch, and I was having a lovely time. The track was a little bit greasy, but I was having fun. And then at one point, I came around the corner, applied the power, and the thing snapped on me. And I swear it was trying to spit me off the track. I think some people thought I was trying to drift the car. I really wasn't. I did exactly what I'd done every other lap before. So I've been wary of the 765 LT ever since. In fact, this is the first time I've driven one since Silverstone. So let's see if it tries to slap me again this time. Actually, do you know what? I know it's not going to, because this is a wonderful car. It really is sensationally good to drive. Let's just talk about the performance. It's a twin-turbo V8, as we know, but it's not at all like other turbo engines. Most turbos give you everything in one great big lump, and then they begin to fade. This one, it gives you a massive whack, and you keep your foot in, and it keeps pulling, but then it pulls harder and harder and harder, and at 7,000 RPM, it pulls harder again. Let me see if I can demonstrate. Second gear, foot down, it's mad. Third gear, it's mad. 7,000 RPM, and it goes again. It's not just excitingly fast, this car, it's genuinely scary fast. It is frightening. The way it just keeps piling on speed, wow. But there's so much more to this 765 LT than just massive walloping performance. The gearbox is incredible, it's so fast. The steering is lovely, hydraulic steering, and it's so sharp and so accurate and so detailed, and it just allows you to position the car with such confidence. There's a wonderful sense of lightness about this car. That's such an important point. You feel it particularly over an undulating road. It feels like there's no weight to it at all. And the grip. It's so flat in corners. It holds on so hard. And the way you can turn into a bend, roll it through, and then get on the power really early, it is staggering. This is the bumpiest stretch of road around here. And you can probably tell it's fidgety. It really is quite fidgety. But it's not unbearable, it's not crashy. There are just other roads around here that are smoother And on those, the chassis, the damping, it's really, really remarkably good to drive. I think this has got to be one of, well, the fastest road cars on sale at the moment, but also the most exciting. It's an intuitive car. It's communicative. And so that makes driving it quickly as easy as it could possibly be. Really is phenomenal. But the question is the P1 still the daddy? These really are the best of days for a car journalist. Great roads, wonderful scenery, and a couple of very special cars. The photography is every bit as important as anything else on a day like this. For us, there's lots of standing around in laybys, helping the photographer position the cars, and driving at low speeds for pictures. We also take time to talk about the cars and compare notes, but mostly we drive. As much as possible, we jump from one car into the other, then drive across the exact same stretch of road. That's how we compare two cars in forensic detail. Back in the P1. It's been, I don't know, 6 or 7 years since I've driven a P1. Oh, it's always special. There's a decade between these two cars, but immediately they feel familiar. They both have that McLaren feel. They could only be McLarens. It's the seating position. You're low, you're leaning back, you've got your legs way out in front of you, the steering wheel reaching all the way out to greet you. You've got lovely, crisp, hydraulic steering, dripping with feel. So natural in its rate of response and its weight. You feel like you're sat right at the front of the car with all of it behind you. That's a McLaren. That's the feel that you get from any McLaren. This P1 is also a twin-turbo V8, but it's a hybrid, of course. So it's got almost another 150 horsepower more than the 765 LT, which fries my mind. You've got torque fill with this car because of the hybrid system. They use the electric motor to give you that squirt, that punch of torque the moment you apply the throttle. And that's why, whereas in the 765 LT, you've got that typical McLaren boosty, slightly laggy delivery. In this P1, you don't have that at all. You just, tickle the accelerator and zoop, away it goes. So it's a very different kind of power delivery. Their power to weight ratios must be very similar because in terms of raw speed, raw acceleration, they feel just about the same. In this car, the soundtrack is just dominated by that sound. You hear that when I lift off? all that lovely boost being dumped. Oh, this is such a raw car. It's so noisy. There's so many vibrations coming through the whole structure. But it's bloody exciting. There is something about this P1. It's not necessarily faster. It's a bit heavier than the other car. But for sense of occasion, I don't know, it's got that 765 LT licked. I think it's got a slightly more supple ride than the 765 LT. There's not much in it, but I think it is just slightly smoother. Again, it's got that wonderful steering, so crisp, so detailed, and so measured as well. It's not over quick like we get in so many modern supercars. Traction, that might be a bit of an issue in this P1 because you get all that torque from the electric motor, not only the engine. It can light up both rear tyres in second gear. There. Oh. It doesn't feel a decade old, this car. It really does not. The body control in both of these is unbelievable. They're so flat. They just seem to trace the shape of the road. Oh. But for me, there's something about this P1. There's a flow about it. Maybe it just leans slightly more in corners. Maybe it's just slightly more supple. But it means it's got this lovely rhythm, this lovely flow that I just adore. Oh, it holds on through corners unbelievably hard. But in the way that it rolls a little bit more, in the way that it's not quite so tied down, it does arguably feel a bit heavier. And then over those rapid undulations, it's not quite on top of its mass like the 765 LT is. So that's where you feel the extra weight of that hybrid system. I love them both. I think if I have a narrow preference, it's for this one, the P1. But I reckon we should sit down, get Andrew involved and see if he agrees with me or not. Andrew, the sun is going down on a memorable day, photographing and testing these two McLarens.
Yes.
A decade of the McLaren P1, which is actually amazing. I can't believe it's been 10 years. Why have we got the 765 LT here?
I had an idea.
Yes.
And what I wanted to show, or maybe even disprove, was I just thought it was possible that a hypercar 10 years ago equated to a supercar today. And I can't believe that the P1 is already 10 years old. No. You drive it, it doesn't feel like a classic car, does it?
No.
I mean, at all. But it's been really interesting, and yeah, I now know the answer to that question.
You've got a clear answer in your head, haven't you?
Yeah, I really do.
We're not going to give it away here, though, are we?
No, that's the annoying bit, isn't it? We're not going to tell you.
Where are we going to give it away?
I'll write some words and we'll stick them up on the website. And if you subscribe to us or just take out a 1 month free trial, all will be revealed there in the next few days.
Yeah, so we'll reveal all on the Intercooler app and website. The-intercooler.com is the website. You can find the app as well. But we can talk about the cars a little bit. When was the first time you drove a P1? Presumably in period when it was new.
Yeah, about probably 2014. I wasn't in the first tranche of it. Yeah. But you know, we remember those days, don't we? Because it was the days of, what do they call it, the Holy Trinity, the 980 and the LaFerrari and the P1. And you know, 900 horsepower. That was such a big step up from anything that there'd been before.
Do you remember? It was a spaceship, this thing, with the hybrid, with the performance it had, the weight-saving measures, everything. It was a spaceship.
And all the clever stuff. You know, you could plug it in; it would run on electricity only. Yeah. And we're so used to all that now. But 10 years ago, in a car like this, it was, and it was an amazing achievement then. And you drive it now, and it still is, isn't it? You know, you get in it and you go down a road, and you're not going to be quicker than anything else.
No.
I mean, how many times today do you think to yourself, gosh, if only I had another 100 horsepower?
It doesn't happen, does it?
Ever. And the LT, given that it was what, you know, compare new price to new price, I don't know, was it a quarter of the money, a third of the money?
Something like that.
Yeah. It wasn't exactly left behind, was it?
Does it feel any slower to you? No. You mentioned power to weight ratios.
It doesn't. I mean,
but they deliver their performance ever so slightly.
They do, yeah, differently, because this is no hybrid on it. Yeah. I mean, it's lighter, so it's a bit more. It's got a bit more initial get up and go. But because it's got, you know, we know that one of the problems with the McLaren engine, it is quite laggy. The hybrid, I mean, the advantage of the hybrid, what I think people don't understand about the P1 is the hybrid doesn't make the car faster, because the additional power it brings is offset entirely by the additional weight of it. But what it does do, it takes away the lag, because you have the torque fill.
So the moment you touch the accelerator, rather than feeling the boost build gradually, you just get that surge of performance.
Yeah, because you get the electricity coming in, and it just fills in the gap in the torque curve. Whereas this, you've got to go, you either got to be in a low gear, you either got to, you know, prepare yourself on the car for it, or you just got to wait for them to spool up and then you go, and when you go, you go. But it's not like this. This is it's got better throttle response, hasn't it? Yeah. For exactly that reason. But there's a penalty, isn't it, in the weight.
And you feel it?
I can, you know, and you don't have to be on a racetrack. You know, just drive it on roads around here, and you know, we are driving, you know, fast but sensibly and not taking any risk, and you can feel it. That just feels a bit quicker to turn in, a bit more on its toes, a bit more alive, a bit more responsive. This feels just like a fantastic battle bus. Just a, you know, an incredible weapon for doing a job, but it's not as sharp and honed as that.
There are a couple of very rapid undulations a bit further down there. I love testing cars over there because it really demonstrates something about the body control. Some cars will continue to bounce like that, others will scrape their belly. Yeah. Some just soak it up and you know, get back to flat again very quickly. And it's over those quick undulations that you feel the difference in weight between these two. Yeah. This one just doesn't quite manage it quite so well.
No. And also, you know, there's the thick end of a decade of suspension development in there as well. And, you know, you can't ignore that. It's got a much quicker, more rapid gear change as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But it hasn't got that sense of occasion, has it?
There's something about
There's
this
something
one.
about this. And yeah, I mean, I do know what I think.
Yeah.
You probably think something completely different. But it is an unbelievably close run thing. But even that, the fact that we're having to think, well, which one would it be? If you could, have one more hour in one or the other, which should you take? The fact that we're talking about, a supercar compared to a hypercar of 10 years ago just shows the progress, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And it makes you wonder whether we're going to be 10 years from now. And the answer to that is in electric cars. And
Well, we'll do it in another decade.
We'll do it in a decade, but I just can't, I don't care how much power they've got. I just can't see us having had the kind of fun we've had today in cars powered by refrigerator motors. I just can't. And maybe I'm wrong. There are many people who are far, far more intelligent and clued up on these things than I, who think they've got the answers. And I just hope they're right, because, to me, this feels a bit like a sort of last chance saloon. We're out here with two incredible cars. Okay, one's got a bit of an electric attached to it, but really it's all about those mighty V8 motors and the noise and the sound and the fury and the everything else. And, I think we'll look back and we'll just feel really lucky that we got to do it at all, because one day you won't.
Yeah, okay, final thoughts then.
Yeah.
McLaren Automotive has only been around, 10, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah.
11, 12 years, let's call it. They've put out some remarkable cars in that time.
Actually, these are two of the absolute best.
They are.
If you think of the best cars McLaren have made, I would have these two in it. I'd definitely have the 675 LT in there. As well. And that's another reason we got them together. You're not going to put this up against, something which isn't going to do any kind of justice to it at all. So yeah, these are two of the finest cars. I love this. I think this is an incredible achievement. And I think a 720S is the most broadly defined supercar of them all. But this is just that with a bit more focus. Yeah. And it's amazing. Yeah. But it's not a P1.
They're both stunning, aren't they? Well, if you want to know which one Andrew does prefer, and if you want to know which one I do prefer, you're going to have to check out the story, the-intercooler.com, or the app. It'll be up there soon. That was good fun.
Great day out.